Thing. Oh gosh, I hope it works. Let's see. Restart. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, sorry. There we go. Sorry, my computer's being weird too. Um, but hi, it's nice to meet you. Oh gosh, my
thank
connection's
you.
unstable, of course. But yeah, it's nice to meet you. I know I've been following you on Instagram for a good second.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. So I came across your Instagram page, the Women of Color in Horror, and I love your posts. I love the message. I love talking about that. So I before I dive into that, I do want to ask, like, if you feel comfortable, like if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Okay, so well, my name is Cindy Sanabria. I'm a Latina writer, filmmaker, special effects makeup artist, and a horror host with Women of Color in Horror. And but most of my horror fans know me from the Horror Tour Guide, which was kind of like it's a little older than Women of Color in Horror. I launched Women of Color in Horror as kind of like, well, I'm a Latina that I've been struggling with getting my stuff seen and getting attention to my work so I can get work. And so I kind of got tired of getting pushed to the side, tired of the gatekeepers. And I was just like, and then there's so many women out there like me, so many females in the industry that don't really get the proper accolades that they, deserve. And just this statistically speaking,
Mm.
percent of the whole, of the whole genre. I mean, like, and if you factor in women of color in the horror industry, now we're down to less than 1%. So it's pretty crucial that, that I launched this grassroots kind of movement. I would love for one day to make it an official, like maybe nonprofit organization to really do things more actively for women of color, like help, slate productions, because we don't get hurt that much. And unfortunately, I'm trying to break that stigma that our fellow women of color have, where sometimes we tend not to help each other out because the competition is so grave, because the opportunities are so scarce, that once they're in, they're like, well, I'm in, and I'm trying to break that mentality, because we're never going to succeed like that, by competing with one another and not helping each other out. I've just been a proud and strong advocate for things that I really feel strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Horror Able Women, which is a documentary short about female, all women, in horror with disabilities. So, because that's another sector that they're underdogs. It doesn't matter if you're a woman of color, if you're a woman that's disabled, you already have a strike against you. So I tend to, like, make projects and gear projects to things that either surround my life or my beliefs or my culture, or things that I stand strongly for.
Mm-hmm.
So everything from domestic violence to inclusivity. I mean, that's what I'm about. That's what I do. And I love gore. I just want
Yes.
to.
Okay. No, I think that's all really amazing. And I actually didn't know about the horror tour guide until, like, I sent you the email about that. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, Horror Tour Guide was erected, I would have to say, when I first moved to Florida, because I'm a native New Yorker, and moved to Hollywood for a little while. And actually, it was all the stigmas that are against women was the reason why I left, because
Mm.
I couldn't find a job without a. And they make it hard for women to actually have talent and respect themselves. So, I want to, there shouldn't be a reason why, aside from just your talent, that you should be landing jobs. if you're in a predicament where you know you have talent and someone's telling you, well, if you don't open up your legs, you're not getting this contract,
Ugh.
walk, because there's so many women that give into that crap, and you make it so hard on other women. And it plays also into the whole factor. If we're not strong enough and we keep letting these men subject us and exploit us, then we're going to be nothing but that, pardon the expression, but you're nothing but tits and ass on camera. And unfortunately, there was a survey done on Latinas in film, and we were actually voted the most, the women and the race to take off their clothes the most on camera. And that's sad because that's not how I want to be represented as a Latina in this industry. And that's another reason why, and I'm not going to mention names, but like the few women that have succeeded, some women have already gone that route. Some women have already exploited themselves, sexualized themselves.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay.
Have a little respect for yourself and think about other women that you're also representing by doing the things you do. Look, we're all adults, and we all have desires, and I'd be stupid to say none of us have sex here, right?
Yeah.
But you choose who you want to have sex with. But when you're selling yourself basically for an opportunity, then that's where it goes downhill. Enjoy your lifestyle without victimizing yourself and exploiting yourself, because inadvertently you're doing that.
Oh yeah.
By doing those actions. And it's sad, but that was part of the reason why I left Hollywood.
Oh
And so
yeah.
I started horror tour guide. I'm sorry, I went on a tangent there, but that was a memory lane. But yeah, so this is how I landed horror tour guide, because I came to Florida and I'm like, I didn't know anyone here really to network. To this day, there's not a big horror community over here. There are, but they're kind of small, scarce, and kind of, strung out all through Florida. And we only come together like on a big convention like MegaCon or something like that. And so that's why I created the horror tour guide, because prior to actually, when I was living in LA, I started doing horror excursions. Like I started going to destinations and writing blogs about it. So and there, it wasn't like a paranormal thing, because I know, ghost hunters go to all these locations and they start channeling spirits. I tend to like leave the demons at bay. I don't want anything following me when I come back home.
Oh yeah.
But I'm fascinated with ghost towns. And I mean, like I've done, haunted museums, and but this was kind of like how I got my into the horror tour guide. So it started as kind of like a horror destination kind of thing, and then it kind of expanded to like an all things horror kind of thing. When I moved here to Florida, I just kind of like made it as broad as it could be, because we find horror in everything. I mean, there's horror in movies, there's horror in art, there's horror, like I started seeking things that were outside of what we consider the horror realm, right? So outside of movies, I started seeking like sculptors that like carved on human skulls and were in films, or or fashion designers that made like these eccentric goth style like horror. There's horror in everything. And also like covering true crime stories, there's horrors in reality. So that's it's kind of like an all-encompassing site that pretty much grew a lot. It was really big on Facebook when we launched. For a good 3 years. We were close to like 60,000-70,000 followers. And I pretty much lost it because of my admins.
Yeah.
And because of the algorithms. They may see like a dicey like movie poster and associated with, we condemn horror, gore, or whatever, or is explicit. And I'm like, dude, it's a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so because of that, I wound up losing a lot of my fan base, but I still have the website and the websites for both and stuff like that. And it's still an ongoing like passion of mine.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean that sounds really, really cool. And like you said like the horror tour guide, it's like it's based in Florida. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's based in Florida, even though we've traveled everywhere. Like, I mean, I've been to California. I did a couple of horror tours over there. That's where it started. And I did a lot of like horror tours in New York City, like even Edgar Allan Poe's cottage where his wife died. And it was actually the last residence when he,
Mhm.
his last residence, even though he died in like Baltimore, but he was still living in that cottage when he passed, at the time of his passing. So, and I'm a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan.
Oh yeah. Oh, same, same. I love Edgar Allan Poe, his work. Like seriously.
He's great. And it's sad, he was a very sad soul, so
Hmm.
unfortunately, it's kind of like I almost feel like him is like, I don't want to die. I don't want to wait for me to die for like my works to be appreciated.
Ah,
And I'm pushing so hard now. Yeah.
gosh, feel that. Oh man, I can relate so much to that like desire of like I really want people to appreciate this because like I've worked so hard on it and it's something that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
And I feel like with the horror genre, especially being a woman within that horror genre, horror community, it like you were saying, it is so much more difficult to put your name out there, to get your work out there.
It is. The
There,
gatekeeping is unreal. And
oh
even like for the women that actually have done like successful films, they're not, just even women in general, they're really given,
yeah.
the accolades. So that's why I created like Women of Color in Horror, because I want to celebrate those women. And I dig deep. These are not, because they keep us like almost hidden. So I mean, like I go through every culture, race, national, like, it's not just a Black or Latino thing. Like I dig deep. I go like Hawaii, Middle Eastern,
Hmm.
Asian, because it's, like Women of Color, it's like, we're a very big,
Hmm.
we're very big in numbers because there's so many beautiful cultures out there, and races out there. And the thing is to highlight, to bring those to the forefront. So I do look for a lot of more obscure things. Like I try to promote, like, for example, like African films, for example, like, or I'll look through like for Portuguese films. I look for Latino oriented films, but not Spanish films, because
Hmm.
I tend to confuse the two, but Spanish is European.
Yeah.
And you know, and they make great films out there, but they have money. They make great films, great projects while we're still like scraping. so yeah, so I just try to, I mean, I love horror in general. I support everybody in the horror industry. I'm not selective with my support. I watch, films, both commercial and independent. I would be lying if I said I didn't, because I'm
Hmm.
a horror connoisseur and that's what we do, right? But I also see that there's a big problem with the horror industry right now. I feel like horror is being exploited in a sense now. We're having remakes on top of remakes on top of remakes. And it's like, my goodness, there's people, hello, I'm here,
Hmm.
original, I have original stuff. And like I on my Horror Able documentary, one of the girls that's a part of it, she's Native American, and she speaks about how when their story is um written from someone that's not Native American, it all comes down to the burial grounds, and it's the same shit. They're just like, there's no real originality, and there's a lot of Native Americans um that struggle too to get their stories told. I mean, you have, in every culture, you have such rich folklore. I mean, every culture. And I was a big fan of like Greek and Roman mythology growing up, and Egyptian mythology. And I'm like, you rarely see stuff like that. Like, you rarely see like gods and goddesses. I mean, Clash of the Titans, if we want to go back, Medusa. I love that. I love that. And there's so many there's so many folklores and stories that have been passed down through generations that unless you're part of that populace, you'll never get to enjoy that. You'll never get to experience that. This is why film is so important. And this is why allowing us to voice, our stories, our way from us, from our perspectives is so important because you get the genuine, the genuine origins and feel of the creation from a perspective of a person that has either lived that, through that, heard the stories being passed down to them traditionally. There's so much more magic than, than like somebody like Bloomhouse just throwing films out there and hopefully one of them will take, and
Yeah.
and it's just you're overwatering and oversaturating the market, but you're not giving women like me opportunities to tell our stories. And that's a problem for
Oh
me.
yeah. Oh yeah. I agree so much with that. Like, I'm one of those people where like, yes, it's cool to see a sequel to like another Halloween movie or another Scream movie and all that. But at the same time, it's
Yeah.
like there was a movie that came out. I think it was titled Fear. That movie that came out, I think it was like around February, but it was around the same time of oh gosh, I think it was another M. Night Shyamalan movie. And that film Fear, it didn't do well in theaters. They like took it out before I even got the chance to go see it.
Wow.
And I think it was largely because it was, not a big name horror movie. It wasn't
Right.
another sequel. And it really is so sad because it's like, why are we not giving these movie makers the same opportunity as Blumhouse and M. Night Shyamalan and all these people? It's like, I get it. We like what we're used to. We like what we're comfortable with. But like, my goodness, we got to give other people an opportunity too. So,
Right. And I just feel like we're limiting ourselves by not doing that. And we're missing out. Like,
mhm.
I have seen some independent films that will never get past someone's personal library. And it's sad, but some of them are really good.
Oh yeah.
Like the stories. And it's kind of sad because, like, a lot of these people are like, I went to film school. So a lot of people, we made films with little to no budget. Like, I learned how to make films, out of nothing,
Hmm.
as long as I had a camera, it was like, so I learned how to budget and make a somewhat decent film from little money, and unfortunately a lot of filmmakers don't get that chance and don't have that opportunity. So it's the same thing with them. So, and then there are missed opportunities because the film festivals sometimes make it impossible. It's like, you have these like they're just ridiculous prices sometimes. Like I submitted Horror Able Women to 30 film festivals. And I would say like maybe 8 of them were free. And then the rest of them, I mean, they ranged anywhere from 20 upwards to almost $80.
Ugh.
Um, and what's sad is like, for example, like Essence Film Festival, and it's not even they're a Black run film festival. The sad thing is the rule for their film festival is films made by black whatever director. It had to be someone in one of the higher positions in the filmmaking thing, but then you're charging them $100 for an entry fee, and you're a Black owned, like you've had a long standing running company, Essence Magazine. I even think they've made hair products and stuff like that. They've made so much money. Why are you exploiting Black filmmakers if you're trying to support them?
Mhm.
That I didn't even sign up for it because I had gotten like a really weird response from them, and I'm just like, hey, can there was one person. I like to give a shout out to the film festival Cabin in the Woods, which is also run and owned by a female of color, and actually she's also in, her name is Crystal Connor, and she's also in my women in horror documentary. And the first thing she did was give everybody like a discount in my group and was like, any female in this group can apply to this film festival for free. I was like, thank you.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of support I'm looking for. I'm not looking for someone to just show off like, yeah, I have this multi-million-dollar film festival, and yeah, we're a Black run film festival, but we're charging every single Black person $100 to enter our film festival. How are
Mm-mm.
you supportive? How is that supporting your fellow people? So, like I said, again, like reiterating, I feel there's a lack of support from one another, sometimes in our own circles, sometimes with, people of color as well. They gatekeep, the gatekeeping really has to stop, because I can't tell you how many people that I know that are famous, because through my website, I've done like tons of, interviews for other people. A lot of them are famous. And when it came down to, hey, I'm doing this project, or would you just like to take a look at my script? No, I don't have the time for that. I'm sorry, I don't have
Ugh.
the money, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they're promoting like
Mm-hmm.
all their films are in Disney and everything like that. And I'm like, really? And then, so there was this one filmmaker, he has a lot of films out, and I reached out to him. I've been following him on social media for a while, and I reached out to him because I seen how he said that he was able to get a man of color, an Asian man of color, into this series that HBO was doing surrounding men, directors of horror. So I'm like, oh, well, he has pull. So I reached out to him, and then he told me, oh, there's no way. I'm sorry. I'm so busy with my own projects, you know. And then so that I found that, it's like, but obviously he's a white man in the industry with tenure, and he's not looking to put Latinas on. Like, what they do is they tend to judge you, and they try to be condescending, and just automatically assume that you don't have what it takes to survive in this industry. I literally spoke to a producer last week to help me with my project, to see if I can get some more funds. And then he goes, yeah, I could probably, if you could give me, a certain amount of money, I can, well, that's how it works. Like, you dip into the
Yeah.
pot. If I could raise $50,000 on my own, then from other investors, he could get me about 200,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing, I could barely get up to 50,000, right?
Yeah.
So that's one. But two, the thing was, he goes, so after, hypothetically speaking, I have $250,000 to make my film. And he goes, and then we got to think of the director. I'm the
Yeah.
director. So again, it's like, I'm gonna take my time and put all my effort in just to pass off my film, because you're nobody in Hollywood. Well, how can I ever be somebody if you never give me a chance? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm taking over. No more letting people run my ship. I'm gonna be the captain of this ship and see where I sail, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, that makes so much sense. And like, I, so it sounds like you've worked on a couple of films. So you have the documentary that you worked on, which I actually didn't know about. So that's actually really interesting to hear about. Is that
Hey, I've been promoting it on, on
I
the
the documentary?
Yeah, I promoted. So first it was Horror Able, which is a
Okay.
feature length. That one actually has Michael Berryman, if you've seen The Hills Have Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have director William Crane. He was the director that made Blackula. And I have a director, Albert Pio, may his soul rest in peace, because he actually passed away during this process. But I mean, he was very sick from his disability, and he made like The Sword and the Sorcerer. So those are like the three, I guess you would say, famous people on the documentary. And so it was it had about 22 interviewees. And it's been like my white elephant. If you ever know the story about the white elephant, do you
Mm-hmm.
know the story about the white elephant?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you know that it's like a curse to have one, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a
Okay.
lesson
Yeah.
curse, right?
Yeah.
So um, so like if somebody gifts you a white elephant, that's supposed to be like a really big thing. But the problem is that it actually becomes the biggest pain in the ass that you inherit, because white elephants are usually the bigger of the bunch, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to feed them more. They're very expensive, right? So it's kind of like a catch 22. So it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like the same thing. So I had this film that was like this big project that everybody seemed to want to edit. And then once it was actually in an editor's hand, I had one, two, three, I had four editors. So, something happened with four different editors. So now I'm on the fifth editor,
Mm-hmm.
and and I'm pretty confident about he's doing it. And he also edited the Horror Able Women short, which is 6 women. So what I decided to do is separate the documentary and
Mm-hmm.
cut it into two. So one has more of a primary focus on just women alone in the industry, and then the other one has women too, but it's kind of like a bigger, like the bigger picture. And that one should be ready by next month.
Okay.
Like, but a Horror Able Women short is doing very well. It's I posted it actually as a perk on my campaign because a lot of people were asking me, they want to see it, and I'm not going to release it to the end of this year. So I put a perk on this campaign that I'm raising now. If they donate it, you could get the film 2 months
Mm.
before I release it publicly. So yeah.
Okay. And I know that I did see about the film that you're trying to raise funds for, that you're campaigning for. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, now this is the funny thing. I have two like B actors on this. I mean, like they're known. They've been in Apache Ramos. It stars
Mm-hmm.
Apache Ramos from the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he's on a documentary now on HBO with Mel Brooks called The Automat. It's on
Mm-hmm.
HBO Max. So if you want to see Apache Ramos, he's on there. And Eugene Clark, that was he played Big Daddy in George Romero's Land of the Dead.
Oh,
He's
okay, yeah.
a really smart zombie. Um, in Land of the Dead. And he was also like, played Mufasa's voice on The Lion King on Broadway. So I'm like, I have these two actors that are known,
Mm.
but yet I still didn't make my goal. I'm still, that's what I'm saying. This is the lack of support that females have in the
Oh
industry. I
yeah.
mean, I literally have two known actors on my project, and people are just like bypassing it. Um and I know it's because a lot of like men don't want to see me succeed in this industry, and I know that there's some females that are hating on me too. But this is not my first rodeo. I've been making films since 2009. Uh Probably, I think maybe even sooner than that, actually 2007. And I started with short films. I did a variety show for a whole year of 40 films. um I had a production company called Writer Scene. It was comprised of 10 filmmakers, and
Mm.
we all made films with little to no budget. And then we had like these big all out like variety shows that were like integrated with live performances, everything from belly dancers to open mic, spoken poetry, break dancers, whatever, you name it. But it was like 3 acts in every show, and every show had to be different. So, and it did very well. I mean, like, I would rent out these places. I would make money. Like, people were paid $20 to get in, and we would pack house. I mean, hundreds of people would come see our stuff. It took a lot of work, but it was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then I lost 3 people from my production company died at 3 different times. And so I eventually just kind of shut it down. And then I kind of went into like remission in a sense where I didn't want to film anymore. I just was writing. So that's why a lot of people don't know that I've been doing this for a really long time. It's just that I had to take a sabbatical because I was in mourning, losing somebody that was so close to you, and somebody that and then actually seeing them die slowly. Like one of my members died of leukemia. He had leukemia for 2 years. I actually dedicated my Horror Able project because he had Tourette's. My there was another guy, his name was Jackson. He died because he had seizures, he had epilepsy, and he drowned in his bathtub. And another guy that I dedicated Horror Able to, because he battled with seizures and epilepsy till his dying day. And then I had one of the females when I first started. She had went to Puerto Rico, and there was some foul play that happened. She ended up dead in the ocean on a jet ski. So stay away from blind dates, guys. Like, stay away from
Seriously.
online dating because she literally met somebody online, went over there and never came back.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah. So those, so that, that literally made me kind of fall back, and I just didn't, not that I didn't want to create anymore. I just didn't have it in me to physically film anymore and put together these projects anymore. It was just, it was my morning process, but I couldn't stop writing. And so I've always written. And then this is how Horror Tour Guide and Women of Color were born, because my passion for horror was still there. I just kind of shifted to different outlets. But now getting to this point, I'm just like, I want to get back into it. I think I'm ready to get back into it and now tackle features, And so Horror Able is my first documentary feature. And Merciless Christmas is my first narrative feature. It's a revenge slasher holiday horror film.
Mhm.
It's going to be shot in New York City, which is another thing. Where I'm from, a lot of people, they don't really. Harlem, it's kind of weird. I was born and raised in Harlem, and
Mhm.
that's part of the film, is that's where the location is. And so, and then I always wondered, why is it that we don't have too many like black slashers or people of color that are
Yeah.
slashers? It would make sense for a man in Harlem to be a slasher, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but so that's what this whole thing is. It's like, it's kind of horror from my perspective, from my neighborhood. And yeah, and I have two other films that's gonna be slated. One that's gonna be slated this year and one that's being slated next year.
Hmm.
That hopefully will be paired with Merciless Christmas. So I have a New Year a horror coming out too. That's because we lack good horror for the holidays.
Oh yeah.
Christmas is getting better. Christmas is getting better because there
Hmm.
was Violent Night. There was a good, some of them were good this year that I see.
Hmm.
But New Year's, there is no good New Year's horror. So stay tuned for New Year Nightmare. That's I'll be working on that one in January, and hopefully by next year I plan to release them in film in theaters, not just online. So I'm really going to be busting my ass for this.
Oh yeah. No, I
Yeah.
mean it sounds, wow, you are like, it sounds like you're working hard at these projects and I love that. Like I can definitely relate to like that ambition, like that love for horror. Like you will do whatever you can do to get your work out there. Like yeah, I think
Yeah.
that that's incredible. And like because I know like there's like a timer going down because I don't have the premium Zoom, but I we have like 6.5 minutes left. But I do want to ask you, so you said that you like kept writing. Was it primarily just like horror movie scripts, or was it like stories or like just ideas, anything like that?
Some of the stuff I used to write was like I would blog, so I would do a lot of like essays, like start. That's where the tour destinations happen. So it'd be like one. I could send you a few if you want to
Hmm.
look,
Okay.
but yeah, they're shorter, like 1 page essays, but they're descriptive about my experiences there. I write poetry. So yeah, I'm a writer. I'm a born writer.
Mhm.
I've been writing since I was like 6 years old. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, horror scripts, I tend to do a lot of like treatments. That's what I do. So I
Hmm.
build treatments just so I don't forget the story, and then I come back to it at a later time and start breaking down the script.
Oh, okay. No, because I think that that's so cool. Because I myself, I'm also a writer. I write like short stories and like horror articles for the horror blog Morbidly Beautiful. Um, I would love to get into like screenwriting, but like that's like a whole thing in and of itself because that takes so much time.
It
So
does.
major respect to you for being able to write multiple scripts. Like it takes so much time.
Thing.
So really,
It
it's
does take a long time. And sometimes I want it to be done a lot sooner than later. Like my true crime script, I started doing the research on it last year. And it was just so much, like it's one thing to be a horror filmmaker where everything is fake. It's another thing to look at real case files and see dead bodies and then hear the actual killer recanting what he
yeah.
was. It's nauseating. And it was nerve-wracking. And I thought that I started writing the script and I was like well into like 20 pages. And then I had to stop because I was
Yeah.
just like, this is too much. That's why I stopped my true crime film and I started Merciless Christmas. I said, this one is lighter, it's
Yeah.
more fun, I can have fun with it or whatever. So once this campaign is over, I'm going back to that script though, because the goal is to attempt to try to get it done this year.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody very somebody very famous that I reached out to in terms of makeup, because I'm a special effects makeup artist, but I'm not like, to the caliber of some of these effects artists now. And so I reached out to somebody that was to that caliber, and I was blown away when so somebody's very interested in this project. That's another thing. I don't really want to keep him waiting. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
think he understands the psychology behind it.
Right.
It's like it's deep stuff, and but I have to do it because it's for there's a lot of victims out there, a lot of cold cases, and it's to help reopen these cases. But I think it's probably the only project that I'll ever do like this again. So
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it sounds I'm interested. Gosh, you're like saying all these things that I'm like, I'm gonna have to like message you about this later because this is a
Yeah,
lot of like
keep
really
in
cool stuff.
touch.
Um, so I know, like I said, I know I only have a couple minutes left of this meeting time, but I do want to ask, is there anything else that you like want to promote that you haven't got a chance to?
Yeah, so right now, but probably by the time you guys see this, the campaign will be over. But I'm working on a pre-launch promo event, and paired with a panel discussion with men in horror or men in the industry. Some of them are famous, some of them and almost all of them are going to be either in this upcoming film or films moving forward. So I'm gonna put together a panel there. They're gonna be speaking about their experiences. The reason why I chose men of color is because my my next two films are primarily male oriented, but I mean there are females in it but I'm just
Mhm.
saying like the leads are male. And it's interesting to see their perspective in terms of like some of these guys have actually been in films in Hollywood and commercial and indie, and just getting their insights, and also having people that haven't been that successful but want to be there. And so just kind of having that all, and just getting a different perspective, because everything right now is trying to be like women of color and stuff like that. So I'm trying to push a different topic. And so this summer, that's gonna be, if you're interested in investing in a film, you can reach out to me. I'm on www.horrortourguide.com. You can also find me on www.womenofcolorinhorror.com. Send me an inquiry. You could message me there. It'll go right to my inbox, and then I could, um follow up with that. But so yeah, there's still an opportunity. We end complete funding by this summer for Merciless Christmas. We're shooting in December. And the film is set to be released next around next maybe November.
Mhm.
And hopefully have a theatrical release for next year. So definitely get in on it. There's a profit return, so you'll get your money back and you'll get an investment, percentage investment on the film afterwards. And you're the first one out, so you'll get your money right away.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we unfortunately have like less than a minute, but thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah, this has been really fun, and I will definitely message you, like I said, because there's a lot that you mentioned that I want to talk to you about. But yeah, I'll post this within like the next week.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I really thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you to whoever watched this. So I'll go ahead and end the recording now.